Hi everybody. Well, it's day whatever, I don't know, 7 maybe of being not completely locked down because we're allowed to go for a walk. But with this coronavirus thing, it's really quite sad. But tonight, because it's Thursday, 8 o'clock, we'll be clapping for the NHS, who are working so jolly hard. And here I am sitting in my lovely, cozy, comfy little spare room. I've got the workshop set up in, as you have seen in my previous video. So I thought that my next little project will be a beautiful, beautiful little crystal wine glass. It's very old. Can you hear that? It's got a lovely, lovely ring. It's very heavy, and anyway, if I put this behind it, I've done a little drawing, very rough sketch of some like daisy-like flowers, and not botanical studies, of course. These are just daisy-like, and a little bee. So the little bee will be on the back or the front, or whichever way you want to hold it, and buzzing around. Okay, so let's get stuck in to my home project. Hope you guys are all well. Enjoy. Okie dokes, let's get started. Here I have got the drawing very roughly sketched on with a black permanent mark, a very fine one, and you can see I have just shown you the white Arkansas stone that I am doing the basic outlines with, just so that I can roughly sketch in where I'm going to work. Because if I was to use water on the permanent marker, even though it is permanent, they call it permanent, but the water on there after a little while will make it come off. So it's best to do something a little bit more permanent. And using the white Arkansas is ideal because it is a soft stone and it's not going to be leaving very deep marks. It's just very light. You can darken it. You can, obviously brighten it. It is just very rough. And of course I've got the white background to show up the black pen, and I'll take that away once this is complete. If you were to work with a white Chinograph soft pencil, that would be something different. You would need the black background because your white pencil would be what you see on the glass, and then you would be doing the same thing with the white Arkansas stone, just tracing it. This is a very, very simple design and a very easy engraving to do. For the little bee's eye, I am going a little bit deeper, so you just press slightly harder, because this will eventually be polished out. And then for the outline of the V, very, very lightly again. The legs will be a little bit deeper as well, because ultimately they are also going to be like the eye. They're going to be dark and shiny. So you're going to make this deep impression, and then we're going to be polishing it out much, much later on. Now the wings you will see will be a different story. Yes, I'm giving them a sort of an outline now, but in the end you will see that they don't have an outline in this engraving, because this little bee is flying and therefore they are beating away merrily. And so what I'm going to be ultimately aiming for is a more blurred effect. So you can see the wings, but not a hard outline, that's for sure. But we need to know roughly where they are. So now I have deployed my water. You can see it's flying everywhere. Has been known to fly onto my camera lens as well. So this is a large diamond coated burr, and of course the water, as I've told you many times before, it is lubricating the diamond, making it cut much easier and last much longer. It is a very efficient way of engraving with a diamond. I don't usually use it with stones and rubber, but sometimes I might, depending on what effect I'm wanting. Now you can see I had a little slightly circular motion when I was engraving his bottom area, and I am actually what I've done is that I've just ignored the eye by the looks of things. And I have just gone over. The eye is probably still a little bit deeper than what I've engraved, just for the position of it, but if I have obliterated the eye that we did earlier on, it doesn't matter, I know where it is. So if you have gone over your details of the engraving, like we went over the eye, then all you have to do is redraw it later. Or if you are wanting to trace it to get the position right, then put your image behind the glass again and wet the engraving so that it's more transparent. There, I'm finally showing you the diamond. Wet the engraving so it's slightly more transparent, and then you'll be able to see the detail behind it a little bit more, bearing in mind though that what we are using here is a very rough diamond, and therefore even if it is wet, it's not really going to be see-through. But if you are using a stone or something it's quite easy to see through it when it's wet, or at least roughly get an idea of where something is in artwork that you put behind the glass. So that's quite useful. And if it is something that you can't get into, like if you were engraving on a decanter or something like that, then try and place your image on the top and trace it on with a bit of carbon, or however you've done it in the first place. If you need to do that and you can't see very well, then if it's a decanter, you can put a light behind it, put your tracing on top of it, and you'll be able to, or your artwork on top of the engraving, and you'll be able to see where the engraving is underneath so that you get the right position. Maybe I'll demonstrate that one day. I need to write a list of things I need to demonstrate. Anyway, so you can see I've turned the glass around to get a better position and a better sort of action for engraving. It is easier to pull it towards yourself or push it away than going sideways. So we want a nice smooth action coming from the end of the petal towards the middle, and the end of the petal is slightly deeper, as we have done before, and then flicking it up to more shallow in the middle. This glass is lovely and thick, and of course near the bottom of any glass is going to be thicker than near the top, so it is just so lovely and thick to work into. I can see my water is now dripping particularly fast. That's usually a sign that it is going to run out any minute. Don't ask me why, I've no idea. But we'll see. Don't need it to be running that fast. Because what I'm concentrating a lot on while I'm doing recordings like this is whether my head is in the way and whether what I'm filming is in focus. Now this was a little experiment, this little patch, because I have tempted to use a function on my video program where it zooms in slightly. I think this is the part that I did that. It just was slowly zooming in. There's lots of bits and pieces that I need to still experiment with. I use Adobe, what on earth is it called now? I'm going to try and think now. Premiere Elements Editor to do my videos. I find it's usually pretty easy to follow. Anyway, here you can see me just filling in the middle area of the flower very roughly. I mean, I know these flowers often have a very regular sort of spiraling middle pattern, but I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just making it rough and ready. So I was pressing quite deeply and just bouncing the diamond burr around the middle so that it's quite rough, or blobby if you like. We will certainly be defining that a little bit more with smaller burrs much later on. And where we flicked inwards the petals, we flicked inwards quite lightly, and therefore where I have added the middle area, I have gone deeper. So we're not going deep on deep, we are going deep on light, which is effective. Here I am actually engraving these slightly sideways. Am I going to do the next one sideways? Oh, there she goes. She's going to attempt a sideways job. They need to be nice and smooth, Leslie. You should be turning the glass. Oop, here we go. It's like, oh, I've turned the glass, I think. Anyway, that's still a sideways motion. Again, I do know that my head's going to get in the way any second, but I think in this video I have managed quite successfully to film quite a lot without my head being in the way. Now you can see I am placing a flower behind another flower. It's quite easy to do, really. Just avoid touching it at the moment. And if you know, once we do join it up with halftones and that, there's my white Arkansas. When we do join them up with halftones, it'll be quite light. You know, you're not going to engrave over the front one. Now what I'm doing here with the white Arkansas is I am looking for rough areas and then also adding in the odd here and there, the odd petal that's in the background and is a very, very soft tone, just for fun. And later on, if I don't like it, I can lighten it up. We're going to be shading the front petals quite a lot anyway, so they all end up blending. Yep, I'm pushing it upwards. You can see how I am helping control the drill with my thumb of my left hand. It's just something that I do. You just get used to different things. You make them up yourself as you go along. And sometimes I do things I am totally unaware of, and then I notice that I'm doing them either when my students point it out or when I'm watching a video that I've made. Right, so giving it a bit of a wipe with a nice clean soft tea towel. There you can see it coming along nicely. This is beautiful crystal, so it's really bright. Nice little story building up there. Right, we're back to a diamond, which I didn't show that for very long, so it was a bit blurred. I have a feeling this one is a sintered diamond. This is one of my precious sintered diamonds, which is diamond dust all the way through rather than just a coating, so this will last forever. I'm doing the leaves with this one because it happens to be a a finer diamond. It is not very rough, but as you can see, it is cutting beautifully into the crystal. But because it's slightly finer, it is going to be easier to shade. And because they are leaves, I want them ultimately to be a little bit darker. Again, these are fantasy leaves. They are not real leaves. As I say, not a botanical study. I don't need that kind of stress right now. This is a relaxing flower. You are the boss of your own creations when it comes to these sort of engravings. Remember, you can put twirls, you can put ribbons, you can put whatever you want in between all this lot. Nice and smooth. It is a wonderful bird. And of course, using the water really, really helps. Right, that was a quick dry. Now you will notice that, oh, I missed one out. And I'm diving in there dry, so slightly different. It's only probably because I'm a little bit lazy. I don't want to pick up my water. It's not going to make a huge amount of difference. There we go. It found a little bit of water in the flower. Right, small diamond. And what I'm doing here is I'm oh, I see what I'm doing. Okay, yes, I'm drawing the middle part of the petals just to give it a different dimension. The daisy petals seem to have a little ridge going down the middle of each one, which is rather fun. I have a feeling that I actually changed this to a smaller diamond fairly soon. Oops, there goes my water randomly pouring out again. Yeah, I got fed up with that one and I got a smaller one out. And also I did look at a picture and I saw that that ridge actually comes from the very end of the petal, not halfway down. So I'm being a little bit more efficient there. And I also just adding a little bit of not so much texture, but a little bit of brightness, and maybe filling in areas I want to fill in from the middle there. Anything you see that needs touching up as you go along, of course you can just touch it up. It's like a little painting. We are painting with diamonds, of course. There you can see quite clearly with the light the light shining on the ridge right at the very top there. And what happens is that will be picked up with the rubber at a later stage because it's sticking out. What I'm saying, it's not sticking out, it's deep, and therefore we're going to give the impression it's sticking out. Because when we run the rubber over that, the rubber is going to be picking up the shallower areas. So where I am engraving now, which is deeper, that won't be touched by the rubber, and therefore it will stay white, and therefore it will look like it is sticking out, and it becomes a nice ridge. Right, there's my permanent marker that I used earlier, because now I've looked around the glass and I'm thinking, oops, no, I'm going to show you something different. How about that? I'm going to show you the white Chinograph pencil. That one's called the Glassochrome. Anyway, so I've looked around the glass and I've decided that I would like to add some more flowers. So I have just randomly picked some spaces and added very roughly some more flowers. Now, I am not counting petals, I am just making them as I go along. And I'm just filling in spaces. Now this is the pencil I was talking about at the beginning as an alternative to the black pen, and so keeping the black background, you can see it quite clearly. I don't use it often because I find that sometimes, yeah, it's a waxy sort of thing, and sometimes it doesn't make them a clear mark on the glass, and then I just get irritated. There we are. You can see there was one, but that didn't really come out very well. But that's fine. That was to demonstrate to you that this is something that you can use as well. Quite often I will, if I need to demonstrate to a customer what something's going to look like, I will draw with the white pencil on the glass, because the customer often cannot visualize what something's going to look like. So if you draw it with a white pencil on the glass, they can get a better understanding of what you're trying to show them. Here I've got the white Arkansas out again. Just very, very roughly drawing my petals and the leaves. Quick wipe, and you'll see that this actually comes off better if I put water on it, because it is quite waxy. There we go. And out with the water again, and a biggish diamond. Again, this diamond is quite rough, so I'm hardly having to press very hard because the crystal is so soft. Out with the little one again to put the ridges in the middle, right from the end, pressing quite deeply. Obviously, if your glass is much finer, you're not going to be going this deep. But you can still get very similar effects with clever shading and clever engraving. But if you have the deep ridges like this, the light really helps in creating that 3D effect. Here we go. That's lovely and bright. It's a nice little story. You can see I filled in the spaces, and that looks rather nice. Now, we're not sure about this. I know what's going to happen here. This was supposed to be a white Arkansas stone, but I picked it up in a hurry, didn't I? Now I'm going to show you that in actual fact, even though it did a little bit of half toning, that is not a white Arkansas stone. If you pick up these by mistake, if you don't know, if it's slightly rough when you run your nail down it, it is not a white Arkansas. The white Arkansas is a much smoother stone, and you will see the difference now when I run it over the diamond work near the middle of the flower. Straight away it starts to smooth out the rough diamond work. There we go. Look how dark that is already, and we haven't even put a rubber to it. Now the other stone, I have a feeling is probably a aluminium oxide. I must check on that. I'm not really sure. It is nice if you want a slightly rougher half tone. I would maybe use it if I'm doing someone's hair or something in the background, but as a sort of a base color maybe. But this is nicely adding a half-tony effect, so that we can then take a rubber and make even darker areas. So we will have so many different shades going on in the end that it really looks lovely in 3D. Yeah, I'm just adding some extra petals in where I feel like it. Whatever blows your hair back, just do it. You are the creator of your own little world here. Now you can see I've got a leaf going on behind there, so I just outlined the petal, which made a darker area between the petal and the leaf, which puts the leaf well and truly behind the petal. Turning the glass always, as you can see, making it easy. Now look at the other side of the glass. You can see the light picking up the deepness of those engraving marks. I could go much deeper, but I won't at this point. We will do some deep engraving at some point on another video. So that is the end of part 1 of this video, and I've almost finished the part 2 and final part, so look out for that. And I hope you enjoyed it so far. Happy engraving, guys. Practice, practice, practice.